He then became business manager, personnel director at his school, followed by 16 years as executive director at Carleton School of Management Degree. 2 years ago, he started his own day rehabilitation program, Expanding Your Horizons, which provides individuals with disabilities opportunities they might not have otherwise had. Mr. Beha is dedicated to enriching the lives of individuals with disabilities through his program that encourages self-determination, peer interaction, independence, and unique, rewarding experiences. He has been a lifelong advocate for individuals with disabilities and is excited to be here to speak with you tonight, as we are excited to have him. So please join me in welcoming Steve Beha.
Thank you very much, Megan. I am indeed excited to be here this evening. That wasn't just something that she wrote and made up. I am interested in knowing, though, how many of you have to be here tonight? You're here because you have to be here for a class? Okay, not very many of you, so I'm glad some of you are wanting to be here. Those of you that have to be here, I ask that you bear with us. Try not to make too many phone calls on your cell phone, or you're waiting to do something else, you'll be texting. We're going to talk and spend some time this evening talking about spread the word to end the word. And I know the presentation, a lot of times they talk about the R word. And we're going to try to take the mask off the R word and use it as it is. Retardation, retarded, retard. Unfortunately, a word that is used all too frequently. You know, some of the YouTube clips you're watching, you were here a little bit early, talked about the demeaning impact of the R word, the word retard or retardation. I do want to thank the Best Buddies organization for inviting us to be here this evening. My family is with us tonight from Ohio. We made the trip. They are some of the ones that are here today that have to be here in attendance tonight, like some of the rest of you. So I do appreciate them being here. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with you this evening some of my past experiences in the realm of mental retardation, in the realm of developmental disabilities, in the realm of providing services for children and adults with developmental disabilities. The R word was at least originally once widely recognized as a medical term. And while today things are moving ahead to eliminate the word retarded and retardation from our vocabulary, at one time it was a very well recognized medical term. It described the situation for individuals with developmental disabilities to indicate that, try that. The retard, the idea of holding back or slowing down, it referred to individuals who were slower in nature because of their development. The other concept with retardation was it had the idea of being slower in intellectual development. It wasn't just a physical kind of a concept. A lot of people today, when they see someone that's in a wheelchair, automatically associate someone that has a disability, a physical disability, with also a mental disability. But that is not the case, although sometimes they are paired up together. You know, my original association with folks with disability and with mental retardation was when I was a junior in high school. I know to many of you that probably seems like ancient history. But when I was a junior in high school, the bus that used to come past our bus stop when we were hanging out as kids was a group of kids that were taken to programs that were separate from our program, or separate from our school. And whenever somebody was making fun of someone else that was with our group, they would often say, "You should be riding that school bus." Because that school bus was a group of people, a group of kids that we seen as being different from us. A group of kids that were involved in a different educational program we were involved with. They might have been going to the same building and the same school, but they were seen as being different, and not different in a good sense. So oftentimes, when that bus went by, then if we were wanting to make fun of someone else, we would say, "You should be riding that bus with those people, because those people were different than what we were." And that's how we made fun. I don't remember ever at that point in time using the word retard or calling people retarded that was on that bus. We knew they were different. We knew they belonged somewhere else, and if we were making fun of someone, that's the bus that they should be riding.
I had a sister that I became aware of the fact that had a disability as I was growing up. She was probably 5 years younger than what I was. And so she became part of that group of folks that was in the high school, when I was in high school, that was in a separate special needs class. And the kids that were in those special needs classes were termed as far as part of the special education program. They had different kind of classes, they had different kinds of things going on. But the thing I remember most about kids in the special education program was it seemed like they never went to class. They were working in the dish room in the cafeteria. And that's where we would see them, is in there working. We would see them in the hallways doing custodial work and doing janitorial work, and kind of wonder if they ever went to class or not. But they did at some level, and they were receiving some type of education, but a lot of times they were just working. They were out and about in the hallways. They were the kids that were special. They had special needs. They weren't able to be in the classrooms like we were. I don't know that any of them ever got paid for the work that they did, and that was kind of the part of the history. If you go back and you look in the areas of developmental disabilities and mental retardation, you go back to institutions where people were raised on farms, and they kind of took care of their own needs, and they worked without pay to be able to live in these institutions. In some regards, we adapted that to our forms of school systems when we just expected people with special needs, with handicaps, to be able to work in our systems without getting paid. It was part of a job training process with no money. You fast forward a few years, in my experience, and after graduating from college, I had a degree in double major in social work and French. And while I chose not to be a French sociologist, I did work in the area of a lot of different types of social work. And eventually, as I was looking for different types of jobs, I was looking in the area of senior citizens, and there was an ad I saw for folks with disabilities in a residential program. I went and applied for that job. I had no experience with folks with disabilities. I had no training, although there might have been one class in college that dealt with folks with special needs. I actually had no actual training in those areas. I went to the residential facility. It was an intermediate care facility, which I didn't know what that meant at that time. And it was for folks with mental retardation. That was the name of the facility, an intermediate care facility for individuals with mental retardation. I sat in the hallway, or in the lobby area of the facility, and as I was waiting for my interview, individuals began to, there was this big bus that pulled out in front of the facility. And as I sat there waiting for my interview, the lift on this bus began to drop individuals off that were in wheelchairs. And so these individuals, one by one, started coming into the facility. And each one, without exception, stopped to talk to me on their way in. Most of the individuals, I couldn't understand what they were saying. They had also, besides being physically disabled, a lot of them had some type of a speech impediment. Some individuals came in on their own, in their wheelchairs, and they would stop and try to talk to me. They would talk to me, and I would try to understand them. Other individuals had power wheelchairs and was able to maneuver around and get inside and stop and talk to me. And other individuals were being helped by the staff to come in. And as I sat there, I must say that I began to wonder if I really wanted to work here. I was very uncomfortable around these individuals. I was very uncomfortable trying to understand what they were saying, very uncomfortable with trying to figure out what was going on with them. And I didn't leave, although I did think about it. But I did stay through the interview. I may have had some hopes that I wouldn't get the job, but it was a job that I was hired for, and that was my introduction to the world of developmental disabilities. It was my introduction to the terms of mildly mentally retarded, and moderately mentally retarded, and profoundly mentally retarded, and severely mentally retarded. Didn't know what those meant, but those were different. As I learned, those were different levels of mental retardation that people were classified with, that people were labeled with, that helped those of us that worked in the field to understand what they could and could not do in theory. And it was largely based upon IQs, and as people were able to respond to certain kinds of tests, it was able to label them in those different areas of mild and moderate and severe and profound. Profound being the lowest level, with individuals oftentimes were unable to even communicate. And I think unfortunately we classified in those days a lot of people as being profoundly mentally retarded only on the basis they couldn't respond to the test. It didn't necessarily mean that they were profoundly retarded, but yet that is the classification that we gave them. The other terms that were used at that time in the 80s was educable, and trainable, and custodial. And those typically terms referred to students at that time as far as kids that could be educable, which meant that they had the ability, it was believed, to learn certain kinds of things. Maybe they could learn to spell their name, they might be able to learn to write certain things, might be able to learn their address, so they could benefit from some level of education. The other level at that point in time was individuals that were trainable. And those were folks that could be trained to do certain tasks. A lot of times those tasks were along the concepts of daily hygiene. They could learn to maybe brush their teeth, maybe tie their shoes, put on a shirt, work on a zipper. And so a lot of the programs that we worked with folks that were trainable at that time were to help them learn daily living skills, how to button their jacket, to be able to go outside. And then there was that group of people that was termed custodial. The custodial individuals were those folks that we felt could not be educated, could not be trained, could not respond to those kinds of programs. And so what we did, we just took care of them. And they lived, and we met their needs, we bathed them, we fed them,